Continuing with this book, Swami Vivekananda Life and Teachings, we have reached to chapter 22, to Europe. Swami Vivekananda sailed from New York and reached Paris on August 1900. Mr. and Mrs. Leggett had a beautiful house in Paris and Swamiji stayed with them. He met many important people and had conversations with them. In this way, he was able to spread his ideas. The main event during his stay in Paris was the Congress of the History of Religions. Swamiji had begun to learn French during his stay in America. Now he began to study the language in earnest so that he could speak to the Congress. He succeeded and was able to explain difficult questions in French. His health was not good, but he was able to speak before the Congress twice. The other scholars liked his talks. He was very well and met many important people. Dr. J.C. Bose, the great Indian scientist, was in Paris at that time and Swamiji met him several times. He was very proud of the scientific discoveries of his fellow countrymen. He then traveled through the other parts of the Europe. He visited Austria and Turkey. He stayed for several days in Constantinople, now called Istanbul, and saw many interesting places in the city. He also met a number of important people. He next took a steamer to Greece, where he stayed for a few days. Then he sailed for Egypt. Several friends were with him during these travels. He was much interested to see the pyramids and the museum at Cairo, and yet he was feeling tired of seeing all these things. His mind was fixed more and more on God, and he was more interested, and he was not at all seeing it to be his own interest anymore in seeing things in the world. He began eager to return to India. One day he told his friends that he would soon sail for India. They felt very sad. So, moving towards chapter 23, Return to India. Swamiji felt by the first steamer bound for India. So he left for it. He was alone. He had told no one in India about his return. When the ship reached India, Swamiji was very happy. It was late at 9 on December 9, 1900 when Swamiji reached Belur Math. No one knew he was coming. Swamiji was still dressed in European clothes, and the man at the gate did not know who he was. He did not let Swamiji in, but ran to the other Swamis who were taking their evening meals. He called out, "A Sahib has come." The monks were puzzled at this news. Who had come? What did he want? Before they could go to the gate, the Sahib came. When they saw who he was, they were very excited and happy. "Swamiji has come! Swamiji has come!" they cried. They spread a seat for Swamiji and gave him a large helping of khichdi. Swamiji ate it happily as he had not eaten any for several months. Then they talked with him for hours while he told them about his experiences in the West. But there was sad news waiting for Swamiji. One of his best loved Western disciples, Mr. J.H. Xavier, had died. Mr. and Mrs. Xavier had given up everything for Swamiji and had come to India with him. When he returned from his first trip to the West, they had travelled through India with him and had then begun to live in Himalayas. They had started an ashram at Mayavati in the Himalayas. Now Mr. Xavier was dead. Swamiji knew that Mrs. Xavier was feeling great sorrow and he wanted to go to Mayavati for a few days. He telegraphed at once to say that he was going to visit Mayavati. It was the middle of the winter. There were deep snow in the Himalayas and it was very cold. But though the trip to Mayavati was very difficult and unpleasant, Swamiji did not turn back. He reached Mayabati on January 3, 1901. Mrs. Seaver and the monks who lived there were very glad to see him. It was cold and the ground was covered with snow, but Swamiji went for long walks. He also had long talks with those who lived there. He stayed there for 2 weeks and then returned to Belur Mutt. Swamiji stayed at Belur Mutt for about 7 weeks and then went to Dhaka in East Bengal. His health was becoming worse and worse, and it was hoped that the trip would do him good. On March 18, he left Calcutta with several other monks. His mother was also in the party. At Dhaka, hundreds of people came to see Swamiji and listen to his words. He also gave 2 long speeches in spite of his bad health. He visited a few places of pilgrimage and also stopped at Guwahati, where he gave 3 lectures. Swamiji's health became worse. He was suffering from diabetes, and at Dhaka he also had an attack of asthma. He decided to go to Shillong in Assam, where it was thought that the dry air would help him. He spent some time talking to his chief commissioner, Sir Henry Cotton, who was a friend of India. He also gave a lecture which was attended by many people. Thank you.